Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome anyone who's watching to our second virtual board meeting at OKCPS. And I wanted to take a moment to make some thank yous on behalf of the board. Different board members I've spoke with have these. First of all, I'd like to thank Craig, our clerk, for working tirelessly to keep our board informed and organized and helping us with this new way of doing meetings. Also like to thank Doug and Jack for their assistance in the virtual meetings in IT. One thing that's really close to all of our hearts is nutritional staff. And just thank you so much for feeding thousands of kids over the last couple of weeks. I'd like to thank building leaders and teachers for their passion for our students and their openness to try a new way of continuing to educate these kids. We know the building leaders and teachers miss their kids as much as the kids miss them. Also like to thank Dr. McDaniel and his cabinet for working tirelessly and efficiently to create the continuous learning plan that we're about to see. Thank you to our OKCPS families who are also having to adopt to a new method of educating their kids and the community's kids. I'm sure I've missed a group individual to thank, but please know we appreciate all who are working for our kids. I'd also like to ask us all as a community to say more positives in this trying, uncharted time and recognize the hard work that's going in to trying to make this a path that works for everybody, even though there's no way to look back and see a path that's been this way before. So with that, Craig, will you call the roll for us?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Paula Lewis.
Present.
Charles Henry. Mr. Henry.
Present.
Thank you. Rebecca Budd. Rebecca Budd. I see that Rebecca Budd has joined the meeting, but Rebecca, it looks like your audio is muted. Rebecca Budd, can you unmute your audio? Well, since we don't have audio from Rebecca Budd, I think we need to get that.
Here, I finally got it.
Thank you, ma'am. Terry Jacobs.
Here.
Mark Mann.
We're going to have to hold on a second. We've got an audio problem.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll go ahead and finish calling the roll. So go ahead, Craig, tell us what where we're at.
Mark Mann.
Present.
Ruth Beal.
Here.
Gloria Torres.
Present.
Meg McElhaney. Meg. I'm sorry, can you say that again?
I'm here.
Thank you, ma'am. We have all 8 board members present. I understand there is an issue with the audio on the live stream, and therefore we are in a short recess until that gets fixed.
Okay, that sounds good.
Per statute. I'm now receiving text saying the sound has gotten better.
Yes, I'm the same thing. So that brings us out of recess. And are we good to go?
Mr. King, Mr. King. I just need confirmation from Mr. King. Is live stream working, sir? Please let me know. We just want to, yes, it is. We're good to go, Madam Chair. Thank you for your patience.
So board members, so we didn't, nobody was able to hear any of those thank yous that I gave out for all of us. Are y'all okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Then that brings us to 2 updates on OKCPS response to COVID-19 emergency. Dr. McDaniel, we're looking forward to hearing about continuous learning plan, meal distribution, student retention, promotion, and graduation.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair Lewis. Greetings to the rest of the board. Can everybody hear me okay? Thumbs up. All right. Yes. Good, 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 good. Well, you called all 4 out. So what I want to do is start with our continuous learning plan. And Paula, you had given lots of thanks out to begin the meeting. I want to just say thank you again to our academic team. A lot of people have contributed to this continuous learning plan, but the heavy lifting, especially early on as we looked at formatting, as we studied what other districts were doing around the country. I want to give a shout out to Tracy Skinner, our assistant superintendent, and her team. A lot of work, as you might imagine, went into this. And so I want to just thank her for her leadership as we move down this pathway. So not sure if each of you have had an opportunity to get on and navigate through the continuous learning plan that was released in part yesterday. We sent it out to you and to our staff yesterday. It will go out, information will go out today to families. But I want to highlight several things that have been frequently asked questions, specifically with regard to our continuous learning plan. And then what we're doing, I've got many of my teammates listening in, and we're going to take a lot of notes today. So any suggestions, comments, concerns that you have, please know that we're documenting that and that this is going to evolve over time. We know that this is a multi-part process. We're going to launch on Monday, and then we're going to evaluate similarly to the way we have done with our meal distribution. As we see gaps, as we hear from different parts of the city where gaps may exist, we will then begin to adjust. And so you are going to be our eyes and our ears over the next few days as this continuous learning plan evolves. So let's talk about a few things that I have in my notes, and then we can do some Q&A following. One of the things that we hear a lot about is grading. How are we going to evaluate our kids, knowing that they didn't get a full quarter in? And so the grading, there are really two pieces to this. And let's start with our secondary kids, our middle school and high school kids. We're going to really look at the period of time between January 6th, which is when we started school back second semester, and March 12th, which is when we really started into this closure or suspension of school as we knew it. And so we're going to take the grades that the kids had between January 6th and March 12th. And for any 0 or any grade less than a 50%, remember that we're talking about secondary school kids now, we're going to move that score to a 50%. So if I took a test, turned in a homework assignment, and I got a 30% or I got a 0, anything less than a 50 becomes a 50. The reason we're doing this is just from that. You remember we talked about the mantra last special meeting that we're going to do everything we can to extend grace and do no harm. We know that for a number of our kids, for whatever reason, they begin turning it on as the school year winds down. And so to have the fourth quarter taken away from them, they now have no opportunity to increase their grade from the end of the third quarter. So this is what we call, and what we've seen across the country is many districts have adopted this. It's called a 50 base. And so the 50% is the lowest grade that any student will get in our secondary schools for the third quarter. And then whatever grade they have at the end of the third quarter, after we make the adjustments, that is the grade they will have for the semester. So that's the rule. Now, there are some exceptions to the rule. Let's stay with secondary schools right now. What we want to do is stick with the do no harm philosophy, but if there are kids who, with extra effort, turning in additional assignments, a little extra work provided by the teacher can increase their grade, we want to provide those opportunities. So for a student who may be failing a class, our teachers will reach out to those students and provide opportunities to pass a class. If they end up doing work and it actually reduces their score, then we will do no harm and that won't count against them, but it may provide opportunity for kids to pass classes. So 50 base, all zeros turn into a 50 for the third quarter only. and then opportunities for kids who are failing to do assignments that would allow them to pass. I might mention we're discussing now reviewing and maybe bringing to the board on April 13th a recommendation to move our credit expectation, which right now is 26 credits to graduate, back to the state minimum, which is 23. We think this will give additional grace to students who may fall short of the district expectation of 26 credits, but still be in excess of the state minimum, which is 23. So we are discussing that now and may bring that to you on the 13th of April for this senior class only, reducing back to the state expectation of the state minimum of 23 credits. Okay, so that gives you some information about secondary school grading. Let's talk about
Superintendent,
yeah, go ahead, Gloria.
in the past, we've used online courses to help students get caught up. Do we still have that option for the secondary level students?
Yes, ma'am, we do. And so that's our 4-prong approach to this, if you recall, was enrichment, review, recovery, and engagement. And so that would fall into the recovery portion where students they can still access online in order to recover credits that where they're behind. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. That's good. And that will continue.
Okay, and so let's say I don't need to recover, but I want to work ahead. Is that an option at this time?
Yes, ma'am, that's an option. So that would fall under our enrichment component where we have, you've probably been out there looking, we have dozens of different resources that are online. And we've also included enrichment opportunities for kids in the hard copy packet. So for kids who want to get ahead, now remember that none of this, let me back up. The enrichment lessons that kids would like to turn in, teachers can provide feedback and will, but those won't be graded opportunities. The graded opportunities will be for those kids who are failing and need additional assignments completed in order to pass a class. But yes, there will be online enrichment available for kids who want to get ahead. Great question. All right, let's move on, and we can backtrack at any time, but let's move on to teacher office hours. One of the things that we felt was important, actually 2 things that our teachers are going to be asked to do, and these are minimum requirements. Keep that in mind. Every teacher in pre-K through 12th grade will be expected to have a minimum of 1 hour of what we're calling office hours every day. And so that will be a time they will designate and let their students know during this time each day, I will be available in what we're calling office hours. So students can call in and have conversations. Teachers can reach out and clarify, encourage, whatever they want to do during that hour. Now remember that in addition to that, our teachers are also participating in different student activities. So for example, we have teachers who will be participating in a platform just like we're doing right now. So they'll have a number of students that they will participate with in a Zoom or a Google Hangout or some sort of a platform where they can have conversation, engage in learning. For the kids that cannot access the internet, who can't get online and do a Zoom, in addition to the hour of office time, our teachers will know who those kids are and will reach out to those kids. Our expectation is that every teacher will make contact with every student every week. And so for secondary schools, teachers will make contact with every student on their roster at least once a week. For elementary age students, it will be twice a week. So that's above and beyond the office time. The office time really is that opportunity for kids to do the reaching out. I'm having an issue with a homework assignment. I need clarification, or I just need to visit with my teacher. And so,
Dr. McDaniel, I have a
Yeah.
question about office hours. This is
Okay.
Carrie. Sorry, my video is blinking out. So for teacher office hours, does that mean that they'll still be at home or, wherever they're staying at, home? Are they going to have basically the kids can call their cell phone, or how does that work logistically?
So yes, they will be at home, and they will use whatever device they're comfortable with. We've had a number of our teachers say, I'm not comfortable necessarily with exchanging my personal cell phone with my students. So we are working on giving them an option to that. It may be a district issued device that has a district phone number on it so that they feel more comfortable using that number.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And so the idea behind office hours is simply to address one portion of our new school day. The others are, as we talked about, they'll be, our teachers. Our teachers are very creative, and what we're giving them with our continuous learning plan is a set of guidelines. Within the guidelines, our teachers, they've already shared with us a lot of the cool things that they're doing. So in addition to the hour, they will also be working remotely in a Zoom platform or something like it with their grade level partners, with their content partners. Principals will be conducting virtual faculty meetings, in addition to all the other things that our teachers are going to be doing during the day. One of the things that we would like for them to do, and we've heard back from them that they want to do, is even though we're not grading new material, they do want to provide feedback to our kids as they are submitting different responses to prompts, for example. So teachers are not just putting in an hour a day. Please understand that. And I know I'm preaching to the choir. That really is meant for all those that are listening. Our teachers are going to continue to put in hours, and they have been each and every day. It's simply a 1 hour office time that they advertise and can take calls from kids and families. Okay.
Superintendent, I have some questions.
Yes.
Later, so if you can come back to me.
Well, you can ask them now, or we can circle back. Either way.
Are you done with the one office time issue? I have
Yes,
some questions related to that.
You bet.
Okay, so just for clarification, the office hours, is that separate from instruction time, or is that inclusive of instruction time?
We expect that to be separate from instruction time. So office hours would be above and beyond any instruction that is occurring.
Do we have any details about what instruction time is going to look like related to the students?
That will vary from teacher to teacher, student to student. So the idea is that on Mondays, we will push out our continuous learning plan for the week. So it will include, and you probably saw in your packet, it will include by grade how much time we might expect for a student to spend on a particular subject. And that ranges from pre-K all the way to 12th grade by subject area. So the idea is that the student begins the packet on a Monday or whenever they're able to pick the packet up. And as they move through the packet, teachers are coming in providing additional resources. It may be enrichment. It may be 2 or 3 different online opportunities. It may be enrichment that teachers provide at the meal pickup places for kids to do at a particular school, a particular grade level. And then through the week, the teachers are available all day to help. The office hour is simply a designated time that every student in that teacher's class knows my teacher is available at this time. But in addition to that, that's when you might see the phone calls for kids who are really struggling coming from a teacher to a student. That might be an additional AP opportunity where you have 7 kids and a teacher in a Zoom meeting. That's above and beyond the 1 hour office time. So that will look different throughout the day at each of our schools.
So in relation to like if there's an assignment and they have a question, whether it's an elementary school child or whether it's a high school student that has an issue with like calculus, if they need to call that teacher to get some clarification to help them with that particular assignment or problem or question, is that just in the 1 hour or is that separate?
I think that can be either. It's certainly they can do it during the 1 hour, but as our teachers begin to understand, and our teachers already know which kids need additional assistance, additional support, that will occur throughout the day, no doubt, with our teachers. And so if for example, a teacher's office time is 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., a student is doing homework at 3 o'clock that afternoon, they can email, they can text, they can call. We also have, Mr. Henry, and for the rest of you, I think you may have seen this, we have an additional hotline set up that is a 24-hour hotline. So if a student is having an issue and does not get an immediate response or a timely response from a teacher, they can call a hotline in addition to the office hours. And so what we've tried to do is set it up so that the office hour, everybody knows teacher is available. But if a student can't get to the teacher during that 1 hour, they can still reach out throughout the day. And we will do our best as a teaching staff to get responses in a timely manner back to the students.
Okay, because the issue we're dealing with failing students, but I do have a concern about those students that may not be failing, but may want to increase their intellectual capacity as far as whatever the subject matter, because they have to take the ACT or the SAT test, and so it may have an issue in algebra, algebra 2, calculus, science, any type of class like that. And so I wanted to make sure that they have access to the teachers as well, because a teacher can spend probably 20-30 minutes with one student on one question. So I just wanted to clarify and make sure that if a student does get in contact with a teacher and they have an issue, that teacher will have the time to spend with those particular students, and that's not inclusive of the office time, that's separate. So I just wanted to make it sense for public notification, is that separate?
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if I'm taking the ACT and I need help with calculus, algebra 2, and I got some issues and I'm trying to better myself, and my teacher, can I call my teacher during a certain time during the day, to get help with my assignment?
I think what I want to do, and I think a couple of things, is we want to trust that our teachers are going to take care of kids. We trust them all year long. They do a fantastic job. So I want to trust that they know what kids need, what assignments, they know what levels of support individual kids need. And then the second thing is, we know this is going to evolve. We're going to find out very quickly where our gaps are. So I really I'm not trying to ride the fence on this one. What I'm trying to establish is that our teachers know their kids, and they're going to deliver whatever their kids need. If there is a student that needs additional enrichment, then we trust that our teachers are going to meet that need, even if it's outside of the office hour. So I think what I'd like to do is see how this goes, establish the office hour, let's see how that works. If it's not working, we will adjust. But I want to make sure that we are trusting our teachers to take care of our kids. We do that all year long. And now is probably not a time, in my opinion, to change that. Our teachers are going to take care of our kids. I have no doubt about that.
I think our teachers, most of them want to spend more, as much time as possible, maybe during the day, to help those kids more than the 1 hour office hour. So just for clarification, though, so any teachers that are listening, or anybody in the public that's listening, I wanted to make sure and clarify that, a teacher, if a student calls a teacher, but that teacher won't pick up the phone because she's already used up an hour of her office time, and that student has, that student wants to get help with an assignment, that's not inclusive of office time, that's actually something that's separate. And I think that's something that should be looked at, because we don't want any teacher saying, well, I used my hour up today, so I can't call Johnny or Sue because, you know, I've already used an hour of my instruction time and Johnny and Sue needs help with their homework and they've been calling the teacher. And so the teacher won't get back to that particular student.
I understand your point. I will say again that what you just described is not, that doesn't describe our teachers. Our teachers are going to take care of our kids. We were just simply trying to establish a consistent time every day for every teacher where they are actively in the office, if you will. Outside of that, our teachers will help our kids. I am very confident of that. If there is a circumstance or an occasion where a student is not getting the assistance they need, then what I would encourage families to do, students to do, is reach out to the principal and let's make sure that there isn't something that's, you know, a glitch with communication or a glitch with technology. But I am confident that our teachers are going to take care of our kids.
And that's the next question. Is there going to be a monitoring of the principals or ILDs, or how will they monitor to make sure that the students are actually contacting the kids?
We will conduct ourselves the way we do all year. Every year there is a hierarchy of leadership and accountability. And so it begins with me and it works through cabinet, it works through ILDs, it works through site level administrators down to the teachers, and it works up and down the line. So we have conversations every day. We are monitoring that way and we'll continue to do so.
Have the teachers been notified about different cell phone apps like Google services where they can actually possibly use their cell phone, but their number won't be identified, or, you know, if they have issues about giving out their personal information, but there's cell phone technology out there that you can actually use a cell phone and not have to disclose that?
Yes, we are aware of many of them. And if you have a particular name of an app, I'll add it to our list. I'll move that on to Rebecca Kay and to Eric Heilman, just to make sure that that one is one that we have pushed out. We have pushed out a lot of different opportunities to our teachers in that regard. But any names or apps that you have, pass them along and we'll add that to our list.
Okay. And I did have a question about what you talked about earlier about the 50%. I can talk about that now or later, but I had some questions about that in particular.
You go right ahead.
So you're saying 50%, you'd be up to a 50%. So are you saying that a student that's below 50%, their grade will be automatically moved up to 50%? Is that still an F grade, or what are we saying when we say 50%?
So it really has more to do with individual assignments that a student has that fall below 50. We will go back, teachers will go back, and for any assignment that's under 50, we will plug in a 50. What that does is it allows us to apply that no harm done and level of grace that we think our kids deserve, because they don't have the opportunity to bring grades up in the fourth quarter. So that will just be a part of the averaging of an individual grade. Instead of a 0, 30, 27, 72, it will be a 50, 50, 50, 72. So it's part of the averaging to get the third quarter grade that will then become the semester grade.
Okay, so this is in relation to the third quarter grade only?
Yes, sir, from January 6th through March 12th.
So for those students that are like maybe at a 70 or 80%, and they want to kind of improve their grades because they're trying to make sure they improve their high school transcripts for college, would there be an opportunity for those students that aren't under 50% to improve their grades for that particular course?
The answer now would be no, that the opportunities for kids to do additional work would be for those students who are failing a class. And we would provide additional opportunities for those kids to pass the class so that they can receive credit. For the kids who are in between the D and the A, let's say, those kids will have whatever their grade is as of March 12th. That will be their third quarter grade, which will then become their semester grade.
Okay, because I think a concern might be some kids might be, well, I didn't do too good in the third quarter. I did good in the first quarter, second, and like you said, they pick it up during the fourth quarter. But, I got a D on an assignment, I got a B some kids may say, I got a B in the third quarter, but I got an A in the first two, and I want to make sure that I get an A, or they may have gotten a C in the third quarter. And so I think if you all can just look at it, maybe have some options for those students that may not be failing, but may want to improve their third quarter grades, because grades mean, especially the high tier students, even though this is the grade where we're in a crisis, an unusual time. So I certainly understand that. But if there's something that you can look into for those students to maybe improve that third quarter, I think that'll be great, because that'll also be an incentive for them to continue to learn as well. Okay. And so those are all the questions that I have.
Thank you, Mr. Henry.
Dr. McDaniel, I had a question.
Okay.
We were talking about the credits, the 23 and 26 credits. I'm kind of impressed that we require more credits, but what are those 3 credits that we require? And then do we have any idea of how many kids this will affect, so that we'd be able to predict graduation rates?
I don't have that in front of me, Paula. I know that typically when it's above and beyond a state minimum, it usually would mean that we require an additional math credit, or we require an additional science, one of the core credits. But let me find out for sure how we get to the 26. And then your second question was about how many kids might that affect. We can check into that as well. So over the next few days, again, I know Tracy and Jamie and others are listening. We'll get those answers to the full board and get those back out to you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions before he moves on?
I do.
Excellent, Ruth.
Yes. Well, the thing is that I'm really impressed with the lots of what I've already heard. It's answered lots of my questions that were in my head that I would have been saying, but you've covered that. One of the things that I do want to talk about is that teacher hour. And again, is that making sure that we're intentional about reaching out to the children. Not only that, again, is that the types of methods that, the different parents, because again, that we know that within the district that a student, the parents may enroll them with a particular phone number and it doesn't work, a matter of months later. So anyway, have we explored the different methods of communication and being intentional, not a situation, I tried to call and the number's no longer in service, to making sure that we're intentional and finding and exploring all ways that we can reach out to these families.
That's a great question. What we have done for the last several weeks is we have prepared. So we won't know exactly where our gaps exist until we kick off, which is Monday morning. As we get through the day, we fully expect to get a lot of good feedback from Monday on. And then as we get that feedback, we can really dial in on what's working, what's not working, and we can tighten things up. But as far as the preparation, we may have missed something, but we have covered a lot of bases in how we're going to try and communicate with our families. And then once we begin getting the feedback, we'll adjust. But now we've done a good job of preparing. When I say we, again, it's our principals, it's our academic team, and others who have really rolled up their sleeves. Our teachers didn't want to wait. Our teachers have been working on this for weeks. And so I know that you do as well, but I just need to say this again. We trust our people. We trust our teachers. We know that anything we've rolled out to date, our teachers are looking at, and these are minimums to them. And so we're going to hear a lot of really good feedback mainly from our teachers as we start down this path. Great input though, Ruth. Thank you very much.
Carrie had a question.
Okay.
Too. She said she had a question.
I'll bet she's muted.
Let's see here. I'll ask. Let's see. She'll come back, I guess. Okay. Anyone else? But can't get Carrie? No. Okay. Go on to the next one, and we'll catch her when she comes back.
Okay. Here's my last bullet for this first topic, our continuous learning plan. Many of you, probably all of you on the board, have asked questions about our special education population, and our EL population, our English language development programming. And so I want to just let you know that we have provided both in the packet and the online pathway additional supports for our English language development and for our special education. So if you're able to access technology, get online, you have a set of supports. If you can't, in the packet, you will have additional supports, and you'll have phone numbers, other opportunities to get support. And again, we know that our teachers have identified every single student who needs additional support of any kind. And so, one of the big things we're waiting on the feedback about are those two areas, our English language development and our special education, because we know many of those kids have the greatest challenges, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to meet those challenges. But just so you know, additional layers have been provided for our special ed kids and our EL kids. So I wanted to make sure you were aware of that. That takes me to bullet number 2. Carrie, you want to come back around, and do you have some questions? Unmute. I think you're still muted.
Yeah, Carrie is actually on her cell phone with her microphone, so she's actually called in, but she said to come back to her, so.
She's trying to talk. I can see her.
She said her audio isn't working right now. I'll grab her question from her, and then I'll bring it to you.
Yeah.
Well, even if she's on her phone.
I can hear audio just fine, guys.
You
on
can?
my side.
It's Carrie. So Carrie said her audio isn't working.
Oh, I can hear Carrie.
I can't hear.
Madam Chair, it's the board clerk. I have a icon on the dashboard here that looks like in the Google Meets Hangout application, she has it muted. The audio is muted.
But I know on that, but is it on her, because her cell phone is what she's talking to us on.
Gotcha.
She's watching the video. Yeah. Okay. Just go ahead and keep going, Dr. McDaniel.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
All right. So point number 2 is just a quick update on our meal distribution plan. And I've said it 100 times. I'll say it 100 more. As we go around to our schools and just see the dedication and commitment coming from our SNS employees, it's incredible. They are braving the 40-mile-an-hour gusts of wind. They are providing curbside service. They have a smile on every day, and we couldn't be more proud of our SNS employees. So I don't have a count today. Last week we were at just over 82,000 meals. Monday through Thursday this week, we are right at 100,000 meals just this week. We believe we'll go over the 200,000 meal mark today. And so really happy about that. But we continue to hear reports, and I know some of you do as well, that we've got kids in different pockets of the city that cannot get to our meals. And if they can't get to the meals, then they're not going to be able to get to the packets for pickup. So we have already started the conversation about how do we adjust? Is there a delivery option? We've got literally hundreds of volunteers who have said, we will plug in as long as we're able to maintain all the CDC guidelines. We would be happy to help. You just tell us what to do. So we're working on what that might look like next week, but we do continue to hear and have adjusted when we hear about pockets of kids who are not able to get to us. So the number keeps increasing every single day. For 10 days, our total meal distribution has increased, but we still want to be able to capture more kids. And so we're working on that as we speak. And that's really my update. You might note that on April 10th, that's a week from today, that is a day off. We are shutting down the district. So there will be no meal service on that Friday. And the reason is very simple. We are wearing down our SNS employees. They need a break, and we want to provide that break to them. The good news is that we were able to receive 3 ginormous truckloads of food for our backpack program. And so this next week, we will be deploying enough food for our 3,000 plus backpack kids to get them all the way through May. So every weekend where they would normally get it each weekend through May, we're giving it to them all at one time next week. So we're happy to be able to do that. Kudos to the regional food bank. They sent a team over and unloaded at our ops building. We have a group of volunteers today. Probably will wrap up Monday, boxing up those meals, and then we'll get them to the elementary schools, and then the kids will be able to pick them up. So really a great operation logistically. Shauna Hall, our director of food services, fantastic. And our entire SNS team is doing a great job.
Hey,
May
Dr.
I
I have a
ask-
question about that after, I'm sorry,
Hang on.
after you.
Carrie has some stuff on chat that she wanted me to do. First one is that she wanted to just say, I appreciate the 50 based grading. It gives kids a chance to pass. And the second was, did the district consider pass fail? I know many colleges have done that. Is it different for K-12?
And we did consider pass fail, and there are pros and cons for each. And in communication with different universities around us, and then looking to just talking to other districts, both in state and out of state, we made the decision that grades would be important for GPA calculations, for class rank, just the different things that you might imagine kids and families would find important. And so we stuck with actually giving grades to our secondary school students. Was there another one in there, Paula?
No, that was it. She just wanted, that was it. She just wanted to say thank you for doing the 50 base. It gave more
Okay.
kids a chance.
You bet. You bet.
I
Ruth?
wanted to ask, I wanted to ask a question regarding the meals. Have we seen how are we, in that? Are we on a decrease? Are we steady? Are we an increase? Just a report on that, on how well.
Great question. So on day one, we served right at 9,000 meals. Yesterday, we served over 26,000 meals. And each day from that very first Monday until yesterday, we had an increase in meals served. So it looks really good. We talked to our friends in Seattle from time to time. They started out with 14,000 meals. They're a district about our size. And today they're serving about 55,000 meals a day. I don't know that we'll get to 55. If we do, good for us. But every single day we've seen an increase.
Well, and I'm glad to hear that report, in that it also gave us a gauge as far as even the crises that we're facing, even in the homes that they're needing to, to have more meals. It's kind of letting us know even the psyche of the student, even in their learning process. So
that's right. That's right. That's good. Charles.
Yes, sir. I do have some questions, but to go back to 50%, how is that reflective in a grade? So if they get to 50% or 55%, how does that look on your grade? Is that an F, or is it what does that look like?
Sure, it would be consistent with our grading policy. So if I have a 55% or less than a 60, typically it would show up as an F. The second layer of support we have for those kids, so let's say we move to a 50 base, we substitute zeros or anything less than 50 with that 50 number, and they still average out less than 60, which typically would be an F. We now have an additional layer of support where teachers reach out to those students and provide additional opportunities for them to pass. So it's really a two-step for the kids who end up getting the 50 and still they're failing the class. Now we identify them, we reach out, and we give them additional opportunities to pass.
Okay. And my next question is in regards to the meals, and I want to, on your efforts and the foundation's efforts, I want to personally thank the Richardson. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but
that's right.
Chad
Yeah.
and Sharice Richardson gave $1 million donation to the foundation to help with COVID relief efforts. And I believe that some of that money is going to go towards our meal plan. So I definitely want to thank them for that. But my question is, with that money or any other monies, I want to go back to the issue about the mask. because the reports that we're hearing of COVID-19 that the next few weeks going to be pretty critical. I'm still optimistic that this thing will go away. I'm really hoping, by the end of summer, but there are reports and we do have to be mindful that that may not actually happen. So I just want to emphasize again, related to mask, because there was a report out of Houston, in the Houston area school district, where they actually did have a COVID-19 exposure and they had to shut down their meal program. I don't know if it's indefinitely or how long, but they had to shut it down because of that. And so I just want to emphasize that as well. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. I think we all agree with that. We're seeing the CDC kind of shift position a little bit. I know that those talks are ongoing, and we may see a new recommendation come out from the CDC, encouraging but not mandating is the language we're hearing. So we will follow their guidelines. We've been having this conversation since you brought it up, and really even before. And Mr. and Mrs. Richardson's gift is definitely eligible for that type of an expenditure. So
Great.
I think we're on the same page there.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
So, anybody else have any questions or comments for Dr. McDaniel?
I've just kind of got a final comment. I want to reiterate what everyone else has said, and thank you, Dr. McDaniel, and your leadership team, but particularly our child nutrition staff for stepping up to the plate over the last 2 weeks. It's really been amazing to watch what they've been able to do and how quickly they've been able to adapt to things that need to be adapted to in delivering those meals. And the final thing I want to pay you props for, you and your team, are very quickly, and I realized we gave you the authority as a board to do this, but very quickly finding a path forward to pay all of our hourly staff. I know if anyone's watching, they've probably seen that the governor had to actually issue an order yesterday to force some districts to do that, which they could have done before. And I just want to thank you and your staff for finding a very quick resolution to that and giving our hourly employees comfort in knowing that they're going to get their contract fulfilled for the rest of this year during this crisis. I think that means a lot. I want to thank you and everyone involved in that. That's all I have.
Hey, Dr.
One
McDaniel.
last thing.
Okay. Carrie had another question real quick, Ruth.
Okay, that's fine. No problem.
She put it on chat. Dr. McDaniel, Carrie was wondering, if you have a computer at home, do you still have to pick up the packet from school, or will it come to you at home? Is that part of the questions the teachers are asking when they call?
Yes, that's a great question. And that would be optional. If you have a computer at home, you will get the entire packet online. And we've had a number of parents in the meal distribution lines ask that very question, when packets are available, can we go ahead and get a packet too? And the answer to that is yes. There is no limitation. So even if you can get it online, you can still pick up a hard packet, but you do not need to.
Okay, thank you. Ruth?
Yes, one last thing on the meals part of it. And while we're giving kudos, I just want to give kudos to, sometimes we forget we have multiple cities that we serve. And so anyway, in particular, at the beginning of the meal process, the councilwoman from Spencer did reach out to myself and also to Dr. McDaniel to do whatever that they can do in order to assist in that particular area. So again, kudos to the ones that are thinking outside of the box and also making sure that their cities as well are being taken care of.
Yes, thank you, Ruth, for that reminder. And because of the efforts of those ladies in Spencer, we're feeding every day 80 kids who may not otherwise have been able to get to our meals. And so we sure do appreciate that.
Okay. So I have a question that's maybe questionable. Anyway, we are ending our year not fully completing our scope of instruction. So at the beginning of the year, we tend to take the first couple of weeks reviewing and recapping what we know everybody forgot over the summer. At what point will our team start looking at how we're going to adjust instruction for the beginning of next year and for the remainder of the year, because we know we're going to we're losing those objectives, fourth quarter objectives at every grade level. So if our students are passing because they did well up to this point, they were on target up to this point, that's going to throw us behind for the beginning of the next grade level. When will we start planning for that, or has that already started to happen?
Great question. That has already started. And with the caveat that this is all, as you know, this is all new ground for us. Nobody has traveled this road yet. We do know that you know the research behind the summer slide and how that impacts kids. And this extends that summer slide by about 35 days. So it is significant. And so what we believe is that as we begin the school year, we will have to spend more time with the review and enrichment cycle. And then we're really talking a lot right now too about what summer looks like, and that it won't be a typical summer school year, that we're going to provide additional enrichment, additional support this summer that will help as we move into a new school year. Keep in mind that the way we're operating right now may be the way we operate as August 10th approaches, August 10th being our first day of school. So we're looking at multiple scenarios depending on what the circumstances are that we're faced with. But yes, Gloria, we've already started that conversation. It's good. Okay, I've got two other things, unless there are other questions to date, to this point.
Okay.
We good?
We're good.
Okay, I want to talk, and I'll talk about these two things really as one thing. It's the student retention, particularly with kids who are in third grade, and whether or not we promote to fourth grade or whether we retain. And the other thing is just graduation as a concept, as a topic. So the Reading Sufficiency Act, RSA, mandates that a team is in place and evaluates students who are in third grade who are on that line of being retained. We will still conduct those meetings for all third graders who are on that line of being retained. And we will look at what they have done in the first 3 quarters. We will not take into account what they should have known or could have known in the fourth quarter. That would be unfair to those kids. We're going to continue to apply the measure of grace that we've talked about. We're going to continue to work with the philosophy of do no harm. However, there may still be students who are currently in the third grade who we need to retain, and that will come through that team meeting. The team consists of school personnel, an administrator, teacher, and the parent or guardian. So it will be a decision made by that team with regard to retention. But keep in mind that we're measuring based upon 3 quarters only. We will not hold against any student what they should have known in the fourth quarter. There are no additional assessments, tests that we're going to be giving to these kids. It's based on their body of work through the first 3 quarters. And those meetings will happen this spring. Okay, graduation. Let's talk specifically about the graduation ceremony. A lot of chatter back and forth. As you can imagine, I know you've been a part of it, but this is going across the country on what about graduation. Our position is this, that in the spring, in May, we need to have a graduation ceremony. Most likely, it will be a virtual ceremony of some kind. However, we believe we can continue the conversation about what might happen in June, in July, and in August, meaning specifically that if we're clear, COVID-19 has subsided, we're given the green light to gather, then I think it would make sense to then have that conversation moving forward about potentially a ceremony of some kind. But we don't believe it can be that instead of a spring graduation. And here are some thoughts behind that. If we say we're not going to do a virtual, let's wait till June, July, August, and then it falls through, then we missed our opportunity to celebrate our kids in some sort of a graduation ceremony. We also know that if we didn't cancel our venues, the fairgrounds, for example, then we're on the hook for a lot of money because we didn't cancel in time. They do not have another opening at the fairgrounds until August 17th. So likely, and again, many of you have contributed things like, let's do it at Taft Stadium. Let's do it at Capitol Hill High School. Let's figure out a place locally where we can have a graduation ceremony later in the summer. So my position is, I think we need to take care of this in May. Let's make sure we honor and recognize our seniors in May. And then if things subside and we want to revisit this and do it locally, then I think we can leave that door open. What I don't want to do is give an impression out to our seniors or their families or our faculty or staff that, hey, we're just going to wait and see. Let's not commit to anything. Let's just wait and see what happens. I think that could get us in a bind. So we are working now with our principals, our senior class sponsors, our ILDs, and really a number of people on deciding what our graduation might look like. We've got a lot of crazy ideas out there, a lot of really cool ideas, and we hope to have that nailed down in the next probably 2 to 3 weeks, if not before, so that we can then begin advertising for each high school what that might look like. Take any questions that you might have on either retention or graduation.
I had a question on the graduation.
Okay.
I think if available and if there is an opportunity to have a physical graduation ceremony, I think a good plan would be to have each high school have their own graduation. That's kind of how we did it in the past. I think that'll be a better rate. I think, right now, I think we're sending some schools with small enrollments to Capitol Hill, but I think that even with that, I think it would have been a better opportunity in the past. So I would say that an option would be for each high school to have their own graduation. If we lose the fairgrounds or a big venue like that, I think we can still have a great ceremony, if available, if possible, at the particular high school.
Okay. Thank you for that input.
I would like to say.
Oh, it's okay, Ruth. Go ahead. I'll go next. No, go ahead.
Okay. I just want to say thank you, Sean, for covering all of those bases, because I know that I have, and I'm sure other board members have received the same types of concerns about the graduation and the young people that have put in so much hard work in order to get and to accomplish what they're doing. So I just want to say thank you for completely speaking it out to where that everyone knows where the district stand in that, and I support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth.
Okay, Dr. McDaniel. So opposite, kind of the starting towards that graduation period, is third grade reading. We know the law is pretty strict on that. We know third graders, because I have a third grader, aren't taking that reading test. So how are we going to ensure that these kids are reading and moving on so that we can, in the next 10 years, they get to graduate from high school?
That's good. So we have what we refer to as a body of evidence for every single third grader. And it's a combination of assessment that we do internally. It's a combination of evaluation that our professionals do, our teachers, our administrators, our reading specialists, the personnel that we have who have eyes on our kids. And so we will take the body of evidence that would support promotion or retention and make the decision based upon the first 3 quarters. If you combine that with the idea or the proposal that we're going to beef up summer opportunities and we're going to spend more time with enrichment and review in the fall, we think we're going to be able to do service for our kids who we promote. There will be a number of kids who are right on that bubble. And I do not envy the task of the team, because based upon whether we promote or retain, that will have implications moving forward, obviously. So there's not a scientific black and white answer to the question, but what we've got to do is look at the body of evidence and make sure that we're fully engaged as a team as we're having conversations about these kids.
Thank you, Dr. McDaniel.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that answer.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion for adjournment.
Okay. Is there a second or any other questions?
Second.
Okay. We'll call for the vote, Craig.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion carries. We are adjourned.
Great work,
Thank you.
board. Great work.
Thank you, guys.